the introduction to GitLab. So maybe to give a bit of a background to the idea behind GitLab. Around 15 years ago, we had so many different technologies for email, for weather, music, phone service, etc. But they were all spread out across all these different interfaces. So for example, you had a Walkman for your music, a physical calendar on your wall, and a Nikon camera for photography. Then the smartphone came along and changed all of this. It directly integrated everything into one single intuitive integrated device. All of a sudden, you could make phone calls, take pictures, listen to music, or surf the internet through one single interface. Now, today's software delivery landscape is very similar to what we saw just 15 years ago with the various different services. We can see the different functionalities one typically needs to have a fully functional DevSecOps lifecycle. And above, we can see the common point solutions for these stages. So for example, one might use Jenkins for CI/CD, Snyk for security topics, or Jira to address project management. Now, this often undermines transformation, as it requires a lot of additional support for creating and maintaining integration and orchestration. Measuring transformation becomes difficult across all these different tools. And so does collaboration, as there isn't a single platform to collaborate on, but requires switching between different tools. In addition, it also increases costs and time spent with reps. And as we can see, these difficulties increase over time. Now, although increasing the number of tools or the number of projects on their own only increase complexity slightly, adding more tools while we are also growing with more projects exponentially increases the complexity around managing our environments. And that's why GitLab is the ideal solution to address this, as it offers a single AI-powered DevSecOps platform. That means we have a single tool for project planning, source code management, continuous integration, infrastructure configuration, incident monitoring, application security, and so much more. And this helps drastically reduce the complexity, allowing us to create better, more secure software faster. All right, so we're doing a telco workshop today. So you might be asking yourself, well, how does this specifically benefit us as the mobile operator, in our use case, Tanuki Telco? Well, a platform like GitLab can support a modern tier one communication service provider by enhancing efficiency, reliability, and security across various aspects of their operations. So for example, with network infrastructure management. Using, for example, infrastructure as code, we can manage network configurations, deploy updates, and automate infrastructure changes using tools like Terraform and Ansible. Or we could use version control for configurations to help with tracking and managing changes to network configurations and ensuring traceability while reducing errors. Of course, it also helps us with software development and deployment. For example, using CI/CD pipelines, allowing us to automate the build, test, and deployment of network management software, customer-facing applications, and internal tools. And we can also use release management within GitLab, where we can manage complex release cycles with GitLab environment and release management features. Additionally, it can help us with improving collaboration and workflow management within our organization. This is done through a unified platform approach, providing a single platform for development, operations, and network engineers to really collaborate seamlessly. GitLab also offers issue tracking and boards, allowing us to manage tasks, projects, and cross-functional initiatives. And finally, we've mentioned it earlier, GitLab is considered a DevSecOps platform, meaning it can also, of course, support with security and compliance topics. It offers built-in security scanning for code dependency and container images to identify and mitigate vulnerabilities. Shift-left security allows us to also integrate security practices early in the development lifecycle, ensuring that security is a part of the CI/CD pipeline. We can enforce security policies and compliance requirements throughout the development and deployment processes with policy enforcement. And finally, compliance tracking allows us to ensure compliance with industry standards and regulations through automated compliance checks and audit trails. So, for example, one way how GitLab can help us is with network function virtualization. For a mobile operator, managing network functions through virtualization is critical. And GitLab can automate the lifecycle management of virtual network functions from development and testing to deployment and monitoring, ensuring that updates and new functions are delivered rapidly and reliably. So as we can see, can support a modern tier one communication service provider by offering comprehensive platforms that enhances collaboration, automates critical processes, ensures security and compliance, and provides robust tools for monitoring and incident management. By leveraging GitLab, mobile operators can improve operational efficiency, accelerate service delivery, and maintain high standards of quality and reliability in their network and services. So, with that, here is what we are going to go over today. First, we're going to address how one can go about and plan with GitLab. Then we'll go over some CI/CD topics. And then before finishing up with release orchestration and operations, we will be taking a look at enforcing compliance as well. So let's start off and go over how we start that software delivery lifecycle and look into how one can do agile planning with GitLab. So first of all, let's take a look at organizing work. With GitLab, you can define work items both on project level, for example, to make specific adjustments to the implementation of an application, all the way up to a group level, where you can define top-level strategic initiatives across an entire organization. You can also define work across all these levels, using issues within projects to define individual pieces of work that need to be done, or define multi-level epics on a group level across multiple sub-projects and groups, collecting thematically similar issues and epics in one single location. Now, of course, we also need to track the progress of implementing these work items. This can be done, for example, by using iterations, which tracks smaller increments of work, like 2-week sprints, or milestones, which track efforts across a larger time frame, like a few months. And of course, there are ways to visualize this, for example, by using roadmaps and burn down charts. Now, when it comes to actually implementing these changes, one would leverage a GitLab repo, which is at the heart of a GitLab project. For each change, one would generally create a merge request, which allows collaboration and visualization of progress towards implementing the desired changes. CI/CD pipelines allow us to automatically build, test, and stage the changes we made with our merge request. And once we've made these changes, code reviews are done where developer peers review and comment on the proposed changes. Now, finally, once everything looks good, approvals are given within the merge request, signaling a sign-off on the code changes. Now, before we jump into our first hands-on section, let's briefly talk about labels, because they're a key part of GitLab, allowing you to categorize epics, issues, and merge requests. Labels can help you quickly and easily filter and search for epics, issues, and merge requests. And they can also be leveraged to set up boards directly within GitLab, which are based on your labels. And there's no need to replicate labels for each project, as you can define them on a group level as well as on a project level. All right. So now that we've discussed some of the planning features and talked a little bit about labels, let's go ahead and start off with our first hands-on section here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my test group. If you're not already on it, one of the easiest ways to do it is to use the breadcrumbs up here. And you should see this project in here. And I'm also going to go ahead and open this in a second window over here. And the reason why I opened this in the second window is because I'm going to be using this to follow along with the instructions. And so if you want to see the instructions, simply click on the project. So Telco Workshop in this case. And then click on Courses. And today we're doing the Telco Workshop, so go ahead and click on Telco Workshop. We're going to start off with the first section, which has to do with planning our work. So go ahead and click on that. Sure enough, these are going to be the instructions for our first hands-on part. Now on the left-hand side, we're on the group level. All I'm going to do here is click on the project itself. Now that I'm in the project, I can go ahead and go through the instructions here on the right-hand side. So let's start off with step 1, creating project labels. So first of all, what we want to do is head over to the left-hand navigation menu and click through Manage and Labels. So what we're going to do here, left-hand side, is go to Manage, and that will open the submenu here with the option for labels. So let's go ahead and click on Labels. Now, what we're going to do here is click on New Label in the top right here, this blue button. Now, what we can see here is that we should enter P1 in the title, and we can select a color. So what we're going to do here is enter P1, and let's choose yellow, for example, and create this label by clicking the Create Label button. We're going to do the same thing for a couple of other labels here. So we'll start off with a new label for P2. Let's go ahead, create a new label in here. This time we'll call it P2. Also going to give it the same color here. And what we're going to do next is create 3 labels that have to do with the workflow. So these are scope labels, meaning they're mutually exclusive. One can only have a label that has to do with the workflow. It's either planning, work in progress, or ready, but not multiple at the same time. Let's go ahead and do that as well. So let's click on Label, or New Label in here. Copy paste the first one, workflow planning. And once we have that, let's go ahead and give it a color. In this case, let's go with a nice blue gray. And click Create Label. Sure enough, we can see that this label was now created. And we can see based on the UI that this is a scoped label. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing for the other 2 labels. Again, the exact same process here. Clicking on New Label, copy pasting that in here, keeping that blue-gray background color, and clicking on Create Label. All right, 2 out of 3 out of the way. So let's go ahead and finish it off. The last label. And sure enough, we have that same blue-gray color in here. And we can create a label. All right. Now with that, let's head over to step 2. So what we're going to do now is create a board. So for this, we're going to use the left-hand navigation menu again. And this time we're going to go to Plan and Issue Boards. So let's head over to Plan. And when we hover over this, we see the option of Issue Boards. Great. So at this point in time, we see issue board is created, or rather is opened. And what we want to do is create a new board. So the way we do this is we click on the drop down here, which selects the boards. The default that's opened is development. What we're going to do here is create new board. Now we will go ahead and enter a title. In this case, team scoped board. And there are two options in here: show the open list and show the closed list. And we will leave both of these selected. What we're going to do now is click the create board button. Sure enough, this automatically switched to our new board. If it didn't, don't worry, just click on this and go ahead and select it in there. All right. So now we have a board, but there's not really much on it. All we can see is open and closed. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new list in here. To do this, we're going to click the new list button. Now here we have the option to choose what type of list we want based on what scope. And so in our case, we're going to choose the one for label. And we're going to start off with that label that we just created, workflow planning. All we need to do now is head down to the bottom and click on Add to Board. And sure enough, we can see a new list was created. I'm going to minimize these just to make it easier to see here. We'll go ahead and do the same process for the other two workflow labels. So again, clicking on New List, making sure that label is selected. And in this case, we're going to choose the second one, Workflow in Progress. Click on Add to Board. Minimize this one here as well. And then do the exact same thing. So New List, making sure we have a label selected. And then choosing the last workflow label called Ready. And clicking Add to Board. I'll go ahead and expand these again. Sure enough, we can now see our board in here from open, workflow planning, workflow in progress, workflow ready, and or rather just closed as is. Great. So with that, we've gone through number 6, number 7, and number 8. And as we add issues in the future, if they contain these scoped labels in here, they will appear automatically on this board. All right. So now we've gone ahead, created some labels, we've created a new board for us. Now let's go ahead and create a milestone, as this will be relevant for us and our releases later. So as we can see here, we want to create a milestone as it will be related, or as it will relate to our releases later in the workshop, and this will help us group our issues. So on the left-hand side, what we want to do now is go to Plan, and this time we will select Milestones. So we're under Plan right here. We have the option Milestones. So go ahead and click on that. And we can see here, we currently don't have any milestones configured. So what we'll do is we'll click on the New Milestones button. All right. So here in the New Milestone section, what we'll do is we will first set the title. We'll set it to First Release Milestone. And the other two things that we need to adjust here are the start date and the due date. So let's go ahead and select the start date. The start date is going to be today, so the 3rd of July. And the due date is going to be a week from now. So a week from now will be the 10th of July. Now, we're asked to add a quick description and then click on Create Milestone. So feel free to add a description here if you like. I'll just leave it blank for now. And sure enough, we created our first milestone. Now what we'll want to do is do this for another milestone. So again, heading back to Plan, Milestones. And now because we already have a milestone configured up here, we can click the New Milestone button on the top right. And let's go ahead and add that second release milestone. In this case, We'll start it a week from now, so that's going to be on the 10th of July. And we will set the due date 1 week after that. So that's going to be the 17th of July. Again, feel free to add a description if you'd like. But for now, all we'll do is click Create Milestone. All right. So now we've created a bunch of things around the issues. Now let's go ahead and start actually creating some issues in here. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to head to Plan and Issues. So Plan, and then Issues. And usually we would see our created issues in here. However, what we're going to do in this case is we'll just create a new issue. And let's see here. On the issue creation page, we want to create an issue called Planning Our Work. Let's go ahead, copy paste that in there for the title. And in the description, we provide the description, create 3 separate issues for setting up CI/CD, securing our application, and planning a release. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy paste that there. Then we have a couple of further options down here. So the first thing that we're going to do is assign it to ourselves. You can either click the drop down or just click this convenient button here, assign to me, and it will assign it to ourselves. We'll give this a weight. Let's say 5. In terms of milestones, we're going to assign it to our first milestone here. So if we click on milestones, sure enough, we see the option first release milestone. And then we'll also set a due date to a week from now. All right. So the other things we'll leave for now, and we'll just go ahead and click Create Issue. Great. So we have one issue now, and what we want to do is create 3 other issues to really track the rest of that planned work that we have. So we want to head back to the issues view and then again, start a new issue. In this case, we can use the breadcrumbs up here, for example, or again, by clicking Plan and then Issues. And in this case, we'll create a new issue. All right. So first issue that we'll add is set up GitLab CI/CD. So we'll set that as the title. And the next thing that we'll do is we will go ahead in the description area here. Now make sure that you're using the plain text editing in here. If you see the option here to switch to plain text editing, go ahead and click on that. What we basically want to do is see this interface here with a little GitLab Tanuki icon. So with that, once you are in plain text editing, click on this GitLab Tanuki icon. It should have a little label here called GitLab Duo, and choose Generate Issue Description. And now we'll add a prompt in here. For this issue, we want to enable GitLab CI/CD for our project. And now once we submit this, GitLab Duo, so GitLab's AI features, will go ahead and automatically generate a description for us here, which we can also preview and basically save us a little bit of time here with the description of what it is that we want to do. All right, so now we have the title, we have the description. What we're going to do is set the milestone to be our first milestone. So again, just down at the bottom here, clicking first release milestone. And at this point in time, you're more or less free to set the others as you would like. I'll go ahead and maybe assign this to myself. I'll leave the rest empty, but you are free to add whatever you would like. And then click on Create Issue. Great. So now we've gone ahead and created the issue. I've also assigned this to myself. And the last thing that we want to do here is now we're going to go ahead and assign a label. So to do this, all we do is click on the edit button in the label section. And in our case, what we want to do is assign it to planning. So we'll go to workflow, planning, click on this. And sure enough, we can see the label has now been applied. All right. So we're going to go ahead and repeat this process for the other two open issues that we're going to create: secure our application and planning our release. Let's go ahead, just run through that. So securing our application, let's head back to issues. Again, using the breadcrumbs, for example. And the process is exactly the same. We click on new issue on the top right. Add a title in here. Again, I'll go ahead and assign this to myself. Add this to our first milestone. And previously we added the label once the issue was already created, but we can also go ahead and do that in here. So I'll go ahead and assign it to the workflow planning, or rather assign the workflow planning label to this issue. And I think, let's see here, did we also add a due date? Sure enough, we also added a due date in here. So we will go ahead and do that as well. Due date a week from now. We'll create this issue. And we have one more to go. Again, creating a new issue, adding our title, assigning it to ourselves. Again, I'll set the due date to a week from now. Go ahead and assign our first release milestone. And for efficiency's sake, again, I will add the label directly in the screen where we can create the new issue. I'll click Create Issue. Great. So now we've gone ahead and created 3 individual issues, but this really doesn't give us a lot of oversight into what really is going on. And so what we're going to do is head back to our issue board that we created earlier. Do that by clicking on Plan and then on Issue Boards. And we're currently on the default development issue board. Let's switch over to the team scoped board. I'll go ahead, just make this a little bit bigger so that one can see this a little bit easier. And sure enough, we can now see the 3 issues that were given the workflow planning label in here. Now, we do have an issue here planning our work in the open section, and the other issues, as mentioned, in workflow planning. Now, we'll go ahead and drag. Let's see, I already went ahead and actually assigned the label here previously, but we can go ahead and do this with planning our work here as well. We can go ahead and grab this, drag it over, and sure enough, when we click on that, we can see it's now been assigned that label. Now, let's see here. Click on the 3 issues separated, blah, 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 blah. Okay, into planning. So we've done that. Now click on that issue and note the label exactly. So that's now in planning. Now let's go ahead and click and drag an issue to work in progress. So let's say we'll start off with setting up GitLab CI/CD. You can see workflow is in planning. If we drag that over, the label now automatically updates and now includes workflow work in progress and not workflow planning. And we can go ahead and do so by moving this further along and eventually reaching the closed list. Now, before we finish this off, what we're going to do is just reset all of this and put everything back into workflow planning in here, just to help set everything up for the rest of the workshop. Now, a little point here. We can also set work in progress limits on this board. So for example, if we did want to have a limit in here, we could simply click on Edit List Settings and then set, for example, a limit of 5. So no more than 5 would show up here without us being notified of this. All right. So we've now gone ahead, created our issues. We can see that they're all currently in our planning stage of our workflow. Now let's go ahead and create a merge request. So let's start by moving the issue related to setting up the CI/CD to work in progress. So that's going to be this one, set up GitLab CI/CD, move it over to work in progress. And we can now go ahead and work on this issue. So to do this, we will go ahead and click on the issue itself. And we are going to open a merge request, which allows us to programmatically address the topic of this issue. So go ahead and click on Create Merge Request. And this gives us that screen in order to configure our merge request. And what we're going to do here is uncheck the Mark as Draft option. We'll go ahead and assign this to ourselves. And then finally, we'll go ahead and create a merge request. And with that, we are now going to be able to, in the next hands-on section, to actually start implementing some of these things. And we can also see that this is automatically related to that issue that we just created here. And so any changes will be reflected bidirectionally. Great. So before we go back to our slides, let's just talk about GitLab Duo Chat, which is our own chatbot. Now, we did talk about some small subset of GitLab Plan features, but maybe you do have some additional questions in here. So our new AI feature, GitLab Duo Chat, can really help with addressing these. And to open that, all we do is head over to the top right where it says GitLab Duo Chat. And sure enough, spoiler here, we can go ahead and ask it questions. In this case, how can I create an epic in GitLab? All you do is copy paste that in there. It will give you an answer that's going to basically be very similar to what we just saw up here. Exactly. Now, throughout the workshop, if you do have any questions at all, obviously, reach out to us in the Q&A channel, but also feel free to play around with GitLab Duo Chat here and see if maybe the AI features and functionalities could also be helpful for you. All right. So with that, we finished our first hands-on section. And I would then go ahead and start addressing the second part here, where we're talking about how we can go from simple to advanced CI/CD. Now, first of all, let's talk about why one would want to implement CI/CD with GitLab. So there are generally two aspects that allow you to create a full DevSecOps process. First of all, reusability. With templates, we can easily reuse various elements of the CI/CD pipeline, allowing you to expedite the DevSecOps process. We are also highly flexible, allowing you to customize your pipelines directly with YAML. And with the GitLab API, one can also create highly automated processes, resulting in even greater efficiency. Now, some of you might have also heard of CI/CD components and might be wondering if this isn't the same thing. Now, there are similarities. However, there are some key differences here as well. They are treated like real applications with releases and versionings thereof. And it's also easier to make them more dynamic by leveraging input parameters, which can be passed to the components. Testing is also significantly easier, and discovering components is a lot simpler as well, as they now reside within an easily accessible components catalog. All right, so now with that, let's take a look at templates. Now, templates are a great way to share and consume CI/CD capabilities amongst teams within your organization. It also offers a great way for GitLab to also share different capabilities. So, for example, various different security scanners like container scanning or software composition analysis. The great thing is that they're all just YAML files, similar to what one would use to define pipelines within a project. And they're easily included in a pipeline by simply referencing them with the include statement of a project pipeline, and they are included in your pipeline based on stages or on any specific applicable rules. Let's also briefly discuss runners, which is where the jobs of our pipeline definition actually run. They can be executed in various ways. So, for example, using Shell, SSH, Docker, or Kubernetes. Runners work by holding GitLab instances for CI jobs and are highly customizable, as you can tag specific jobs to run on specific runners. Now, no matter how long your jobs run, they should typically be picked up in within 5 seconds. For those of you on AWS, you can even benefit from the auto scaling capabilities, allowing you to always have the correct amount of runners online to fit your needs. And finally, runners are also suitable for security zoning. Great. So now that we've discussed that, let's take a look at the second part of our hands-on workshop today. So what we're going to do is first bring up the instructions. On the right-hand side, we're still in our first part of the workshop in here, so we'll simply click the back button. And this time, click Simple to Advanced CI/CD, which is going to be the second part of the hands-on workshop. So as mentioned, we're going to be talking about pipelines. So we'll start off with a basic pipeline. Now that we have our merge request set up, what we're going to do is be implementing our CI/CD pipeline. And we could use the built-in Web IDE. However, in this case, what we're going to use is the pipeline editor. So to find this, all we have to do is go to Build and then Pipeline Editor on the left-hand side. So let's do that. Simply go to Build. And then when you're hovering over this, third option is going to be Pipeline Editor. So go ahead and click on this. Now, what we're going to do here, because we don't have anything configured yet, is we're going to click on Configure Pipeline. And this will go ahead and create a placeholder CI/CD code that basically just echoes out various different or a bunch of different text for the various different jobs in here. Now, what we want to do is basically change this. And we're going to do so not on our main branch, but on the branch that is associated with our merge request. So to do this, as we can see here, we want to change the branch on the top left from main to the branch of our merge request. So we'll click on this. And then you should see the setup GitLab CI/CD. I think in my project, I actually included all branches when I forked that, which was not the intended way of doing it, but I'm pretty sure that this is the correct branch in here. Ideally, you should just have that one branch in here. So we'll go ahead and click on that and just go ahead and click on switch branches. All we're losing here is the default configuration here of our pipeline. So now that we're on our second branch here, or on our branch associated with our merge request, we can now go ahead and configure our pipeline. Now, what we want to do is, first of all, just remove the default pipeline configuration here, and we're going to replace it with this code in here. Now, the easiest way of doing that is by clicking the little copy to clipboard button on the top right of this code block and pasting it in here. Now, if we take a look at this, this is a pretty basic pipeline. It basically builds our application into a Docker image. Now, let's go ahead and extend this. Let's add some testing in here. Now, to do that, what we first have to do is add a test stage. So you can either select this individually or copy it. What we're basically doing is replacing the stage that's already been defined in here to also include the test stage. So under stages, we should see build and test in here. Great. So now we have the stage defined. Now let's go ahead and define the actual test that needs to be run. So under 5 here, we can see the code block to add tests in here. So I'll go ahead and copy this and paste it underneath the build job. Sure enough, now we can see we have a test job that runs in our test stage and basically has an image and a script defined in here. So we're basically running our tests. So with that, we've gone ahead and successfully set up a basic pipeline, and this will build and run a small test on our application. Now, don't go ahead and click the commit change button. There's still a couple of other things that we want to do before that. So the first thing that we're going to do is talk about advanced pipelines here. So here we're going to expand our test job or a test stage in here with some security scans. We'll add some rules and speed up the pipeline with caching. So as mentioned, the first thing that we want to do is add our security scanners in here. Now, this will take advantage of the existing test stage that we just created. And all that we have to do is just copy this section here, go ahead and paste it all the way on the bottom. And if we look at this, all we're doing is we're including various different templates. Specifically, GitLab templates that are out of the box that address security topics, for example. So we have container scanning, dependency scanning, SaaS, secret detection, infrastructure as code scanning. We also have, for example, code quality in here as well. Now, all of this automatically included with more or less one line. Great. Now, what we can see here is the configuration that we've defined. However, if we want to take a look at the full configuration in here, we can click on the full configuration button. And sure enough, this is what it actually looks like when we include those different templates. There's quite a lot of stuff going on here. I'm not sure if I can find something here really quick. So for example, here we can see previously we're talking about including SAST. Well, sure enough, this is included in here, but really abstracted for us with that including template statement. All right. Now, let's say in our case, we want to make things a little bit more efficient. We want to make sure that we don't run some of our scans every single time we make a commit. So let's say, for example, we only want code quality to run when we are running against the main branch, and infrastructure as code to only run if we modify the Docker file. So let's head back to the Edit tab up on the top and customize these rules a little bit. The easiest way of doing this is just by copying it. And we'll add it underneath test in here. And now what these are basically doing for code quality is it's taking the imported configuration that we have in here from the template, but it's basically overriding, for example, the rules section. So in this case, it's checking and saying, all right, well, if the commit, or basically the branch that we're committing this to, is main, then we'll go ahead and run code quality. Otherwise, it basically won't do that. And the same for infrastructure as code, where we basically defined that this should only run if we've made changes to our Docker file. All right. So with that, we've already made that more efficient. And lastly, we want to speed up our pipeline even further. And we can do this by using caching. So with this, we can just store the generated Ruby files instead of recreating them each time we run the code. And so to do this, we'll first go ahead and copy this piece of code here and add this underneath there as well. And here we're going ahead and basically caching again, making things a lot faster by not needing to recreate the Ruby files every single time. All right. So with that, let's see. I think we have one more section here. Yep, prepping the release job before we can go ahead and commit these changes. So in this last section, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and push out our build image to our GitLab internal package registry so that we can use it later on when we're talking about releases. So all we're going to do here is we're going to adjust the build job a little bit. So again, copying this up here and replacing it in here. And sure enough, now we can see that we're leveraging GitLab variables in here to basically go ahead. We're building the image, and then we are logging into the GitLab registry in here. We are building our image, and then we're pushing our image to the GitLab's own package registry in here. Now, let's say in here, the next step, instead of just building the image, we also want to log into the built-in registry and push our image out. So next, we'll double check on the top left. We are on our merge request branch. Sure enough, we're up here. And then we'll scroll to the bottom and click on commit changes. So now that we've basically defined our pipeline, added various different changes, added security in here, made it faster with caching. We've also prepped it for releasing our job using GitLab's registry in here. We'll go ahead and commit these changes. And now let's go ahead and head back to our merge request where we can actually take a look at our pipeline that was kicked off. So for this, simply go to code, click on merge requests. Sure enough, we see our one and only merge request up here. And we can see the pipeline that's being kicked off. We can click on the number here of the pipeline and see our build stage with our build job, and then our test stage with all of our different security scans and so on, as well as our custom test in here. All right. So with that, I would hand it over to you, James.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Ted. And just a quick check-in with everybody. How are we doing? Have we managed to keep up? Give us some thumbs up in the chat, maybe. Let us know how you're doing. Are we still alive? And I would also suggest probably ready for a short break, a coffee or something like that before we head into the next couple of sections. So what I suggest is we'll go for a 5-minute break. Sound all right, Ted? What do you reckon? Yeah, 5 minutes. And then we can resume the next activities. Please reach out if you're stuck or if you haven't been able to keep up. And just a quick reminder, you will be able to run through these exercises yourself. Again, you'll have access to this demo environment for a further 2 weeks, as indicated on your registration page. So yeah, you have the chance to explore a little bit deeper in your own time. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just put up a timer, and we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll come back at should we come back at 10 past the hour?
Sounds good.
Yeah, let me share my screen. Okay, folks, see you in 10 past the hour. Thank you very much. some indication there. A little bit more time would be nice. It's been a long session so far. So what I'm going to do is just give an extra 5 minutes there for those that wanted to grab a drink or a rest break. 5 minutes was probably a bit short after 2 hours, but so feel free to take a bit more time and I'll reset the timer. So we'll come past at 1/4 past the hour, okay? Alrighty, let's get my screen set up. Hopefully everyone had a good break. Give us a thumbs up in the chat if you're refreshed and ready to move forward. And we'll get underway in just a few seconds. Okay. Right, if we're all ready, we'll start. So welcome to the next section. So far, we've covered quite a bit, I believe. Ted's walked us through getting us set up. We've had our introduction. We've talked about how we can utilize our agile planning mechanisms to enable flow of work, and also how to get going with CI/CD with some advanced topics on caching and enhancements on the CI/CD part. Next up, we're going to talk about enforcing compliance. So that's utilizing our policy control and ability to control merge requests. And then I'm going to move on to some release operations as well. So some nice relevant topics, hopefully, to get stuck into and some experience with the product. So let's move on. The potential cost of remediating security vulnerabilities gets much higher as you approach production. And this is only the cost of remediation. For sure, if you have a compromised production environment or services, the cost can be catastrophic to your brand, to your company, and even worse if your customers' data is exposed. And we've seen that in the press. So, it's ultimately important to think about shifting left with security. And as much as this information or this way of thinking you may think is relevant to your generic sort of software applications and web applications, but I believe it's also entirely relevant to your infrastructure as code, any scripts that you produce, anything that you're pushing into production is essentially an attack surface, a vector that a party could use to get access to your systems. So therefore, you want to do as much as you can, as early as you can, to prevent those problems getting into production. GitLab comes with multiple capabilities off the shelf. Our ultimate product focuses and premium level and ultimate tier features of the product focus on numerous capabilities. Just starting off looking at the pre-build scanning, you can see there's a comprehensive set to explore. Translating into the world of telco, I would focus on the secrets detection and infrastructure as code scanning. Definitely great mechanisms to deploy immediately to help improve your security posture. I would also you can also bring your own capabilities. Our CI pipelines are extremely extensible. And what I mean by that is it's possible to develop your own scripts, your own capabilities to perform syntax validation. You can perform configuration linting, configuration validation, and even parameter checking. And I've had the pleasure of deploying such facilities in different telcos before. You'd like to catch the problems before they hit production, saving time, effort, and headaches. Much of what telcos are deploying these days are microservice-based and cloud-native applications as they're designed for scalability. GitLab also has native container scanning for post-build. We can generate software bill of materials, which is useful for continual security. And I was just sort of ticking through some of the other post-build scanning, API security and fuzz testing, super useful if you're exposing internal microservices as well for various features and functions within your business. A topic I think is really important here. The more robust your CI/CD checks, the faster and safer you can accelerate your path to production. I'd also note that in the age of AI, having more safety nets via CI/CD will be crucial to successful adoption of this generative technology. More junior staff could obviously introduce a lot more unvetted errors into your software or into your configuration, unless you've got your safety nets in place. And by safety nets, I mean your linting, your validation, and your CI pipelines. And moving back to the overarching capabilities, GitLab is fundamentally designed to reduce friction on workflows and has comprehensive vulnerability management. And the security policies enforcement and approval mechanisms can help ensure compliance and reduce risk. which is what makes the GitLab platform so very attractive to many of our customers. We like to think of it making it easier for the developers and operations teams to do the right thing and make it harder for them to do the wrong thing. Here is an expanded list of our policy management capabilities. Our policies and frameworks allow for a robust governance. Many of our customers choose GitLab because of our enterprise-grade governance capabilities, allowing them to easily apply guide rails across the platform. Our professional services teams and partners can help you get the most out of our products and set you up for success. Feel free to dive through. I can provide links further on with different features, and everything's in our documentation. And we're going to be exploring some of our policies in the hands-on workshop shortly. Thanks to the GitLab platform approach, our single data source allows great insights and auditing capabilities. No longer is it required to correlate the logs between multiple point solutions. Code changes can be linked to issues and release, giving you control and traceability of those changes. GitLab comes with a host of reporting capabilities that allow you to leverage this valuable source of data. This really is the power of platform and why platform engineering is becoming such a key topic. We'll get to look at some of these shortly. Okay. Jumping in, we're going to get our hands on to some enforcement of compliance. If you can navigate your way into the third workshop, what I'll do is I'll give a brief amount of time for you to step through the exercise, and then I will walk alongside and run through it on the screen as well. Shouldn't take more than 5–10 minutes, but feel free to jump in. And just for clarity, you can come into your Telco workshop folder and then jump into the enforcing compliance. And there are 3 steps to follow there. So I'll give you all a few minutes just to step through that in your own time, and then we'll walk through it together. Okay. Maybe give us a thumbs up when you're done. Or if you get stuck, reach out. Got a raised hand there. If you've got a question, please put it into the Q&A. That would be helpful because our Q&A panel can help you there. Your questions popping up there. Good tip as well, because you do have access to our AI and Chat Duo, do try the Chat Duo feature and see if it can answer your question or give you some indications. But we will get back to you on the Q&A panel as well. How's everyone getting on? But what I'm going to start doing is just stepping through. So if you haven't been able to follow through, don't worry. I will step through the workshop with you and we can see how you're doing. But do give me a thumbs up or okay if you've managed to get through it yourself. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see my screen okay. Make that a little bit smaller. I've got my instructions here on the right, and I've got my project here on the left. Do let me know if it's too small to be visible. And I'm going to get ready to step through this. So, first of all, we'd like to set up our policy. Even though in the last exercise we had successfully set up our security jobs, our pipeline is doing its job of figuring out if there are any secrets inside the code base. It's also doing various other scanning things. We'd like to take action on that. Just because it's running doesn't mean that any blocks or controls are in place to prevent a problem. So therefore, we need to configure our policies. So to prevent secrets from coming through in the future, we have to set up a new policy. We can do that very simply by going across to our menu, our Secure tab, and we can go to Policies. Okay. Under here, step 2, we can go ahead and click New Policy. It's within this window that if there are policies applied to your project, you'll be able to view them and control them with the right permissions. I'm going to go ahead and click New Policy. And under the new policy, I'm going to create a merge request approval policy. These are pretty powerful. This will prevent anyone developing new features in a separate branch trying to merge those changes into the main branches or protected branches to have a policy to gate if there are any problems. I've gone ahead and selected merge request approval policy. In here, I'm going to give a quick name. Okay. And then the rules section, here is where I'm graphically going to build the rule up. I'm going to drop down the security scan in the when. And I want to change all scanners to just secret detection. I can do that by selecting all. I can clear all and then just make sure that only secret detection is selected. Naturally, multiple scanning tools here can output different severities of issue. For the sake of this workshop, we're only going to focus on the secret detection. Okay. I'm going to then change which branches to default branch. It's really worth noting in the documentation, your default branch, usually the main branch, you can change that. It's a good idea to make your default branch the pre-production release branch. And there's more information in our documentation. Next, I'm going to leave the with no exceptions as it is, and the vulnerability matches as it is. Under the severities, I want to make sure that all of them are selected. And also want to make sure that we're only status is new and all vulnerabilities, all vulnerable states. Okay. Now the important part. This is the rule, and now I want to set the action. And here I'm going to set up an action so that I need an approver if this rule is triggered. And I'm going to go ahead, as per step number 4, choose the approver as individual users. And from here, I can select my users, and I'm going to select Logan. Done. And now, lastly, I'm going to leave all the settings as it is. And right at the bottom here, I've got a configure with merge requests. Now, it's important to note here that your policy is as code. And what the graphical tool is giving you is the capability of generating this code via the interface. And this policy is kept under a security project, which your admin can have control of. And by clicking the configure and merge request, the security project is set up. You'll notice at the top, the breadcrumbs have slightly changed. I've now been placed into a security policy project. The security policy is kept aside from the actual main project, and this gives you more flexibility and control on who can adjust the policies and a separate audit trail on what's happening with the policies. You can see here that a merge request has been created with the new rules, and this merge request is ready to go. And when I click on merge, this means that your policy will now be applied to your project. And we're done. That's it. The policy is now applied. What we're going to do now is navigate back to our group, and you'll see we have the 2 projects. There's a question there, our answer live. Are we applying it to main? I believe so, that's correct. I'm assuming you're talking about step 1.5. And it's just important to note here that we're talking about the branch of this new security project. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just check that for a second. We can see what's happened here because when I created the new policy, a merge request was made. And I can see from that merge request fact that I think a temporary branch was created, and you can see here update policy is created. So this would have been the branch, and it gets merged into main. This is what happens when you click the merge button on step 5. Hopefully that's clarified. See some confusion there. Okay. Okay. Let's get back on track with this. I'm now going to go back to my group. And you should see the 2 projects. Okay, fine. Next up, we're going to run our pipeline and see what's happening in our actual main project. Now we've fully set up the pipeline, we can go and check in on the merge request. So here I am at my lab group. I'm going to click through to the Telco workshop. Under here, I can come under my merge requests. So under code, my merge requests. And if I click on the merge request that's been set up, I was following the workshop in the background. You can now see some policies are in place. And what you'll see here is the security scanning is loading. This means it's taking the scan reports and loading that into the MR so I can see what's going on. This might still be running. There we go, boom. And here you can see now that and again, this is our ultimate features, premium features. You can drop down and see what's happening. As per step 2.2, I can now go ahead and merge this because no secrets were found in my code base. And this means that the pipeline will run again as this code base is merged in. Ticket has automatically been closed. And we know that this commit has happened to merge. We can check if the pipeline is running by going into the side menu, the build and pipelines. And here you can see my merge is running. At this point, we'll normally take a break, but I'm just going to come back to the Q&A. I can see a few people making some suggestions and discussion points. I'll be happy to interact with you after the session on those. Quick question out to Abhishek. Are you happy to proceed? Are you able to move forward with the exercise? If not, please let us know. Just pause for a few minutes while the pipeline's running before we move on to the next part. Hopefully a lot of you have had your pipelines running already. There we go. Yep. Okay. Thanks, Abhishek. It seems that you're able to proceed. That's great news. Excellent. Hopefully everyone's at a similar point. Just waiting a few more moments. You can actually drill down and see what you're waiting for, and you can see that my tests are all still running. So we're just waiting for those results to come back. As the pipeline runs, these individual jobs are outputting reports, and it's those reports that GitLab are retrieving and compiling your dashboards. Almost done. Just going to wait for the quality and container scanning to finish. We can go and explore the results. I can imagine if everyone's running scanning on our lab environment, it's under a lot of stress right now, so it can take a little bit longer than necessary. Okay, I think we're getting there. Just the code quality to finish. Fantastic. So let's move on. I think by the time I've read through the things, the last one should be done. So now that your main pipeline has completed, and of course, what we've done is we've merged in a change branch into our main. All the reports have been generated and should be available. We can review those on our dashboard. To get to that, I can come on my side panel, I can come to secure and go to security dashboard. Just wait for a few seconds. And what you should see is already some data being populated, already reporting on vulnerabilities introduced by date. This is the view of the main branch. This gives you a heads up on the situation with this particular project. As per step 2, or 3 even here, step 3.3, we can come down to the vulnerability report. And this gives you the much more detailed drill down. Here you can review all the findings. I think it's important to note here that GitLab has run a number of containers in the background to scan the code and the artifacts in various ways. And what you're seeing is a consolidated report. And this allows you to quickly triage and get on top of problems. I'm going to go ahead and group by tool. That will allow me to explore static code analysis and allow us to look at some vulnerabilities. The reason we want to come into here in step 3.5, is we should be able to click on any of these statically analyzed issues. And this is where it's great to showcase a little bit more of our AI capabilities. We have an explain this vulnerability button. This is a chat duo feature. And what it will do is it will take the context of the detected line of vulnerable code and give you information about how this could be exploited and how this can be fixed. A new feature that's coming out right now is a resolve with merge request. If I click this button, a merge request is open. The detail of the actual issue is detailed within the merge request, and the suggested code changes are made within a new branch for you to review. We're using AI to expedite the resolution time of the vulnerability. Awesome. So hopefully everyone's completed this workshop. Another merge has gone through. we can go back to our issue board. And you can see my GitLab CI/CD item is closed. Yep, there we go. Awesome. Well done. That is the third lab done. Okay, let's move on. Last topic for today is going to be about release operations. GitLab allows for cloud agnostic integration with many providers, even private on-prem clouds if you're running your own Kubernetes clusters. We support pool-based deployments via our Kubernetes agent. And GitLab comes with its own registries. You're able to create review application deployments for each branch. This means that your developers can review a review instance of the application and provide feedback before it hits production. Our deployment strategies also include the common available deployment mechanisms. We do support automatic and manual deployments and have incremental and time rollouts. We also have monitoring capabilities. GitLab platform is indeed cloud native to that degree. It integrates very well. We talked about registries before. We have three types of registries. We have a package registry, a container registry, and a model registry. Our package registries support a number of different formats, such as Maven, NPM, PyPy, and NuGet. We also have a bunch of registry supported, or registry types supported, package types supported, sorry, for Conan, Debian, Helm, RubyGem, and Go. All this available now. Our container registry is OCI compliant. We have proxy capabilities and integration with Cosign to support signed OCI referrer data. The model registry is a feature that allows you to be storing your machine learning models. GitLab has a whole capability to help data scientists build machine learning models. Feel free to check out the more information on our website. We basically put together GitLab with a single platform value in mind. And again, this helps you consolidate from multi-point solutions. Okay. So let's talk about releases. GitLab has a releases feature. This enables you to tag your repository, creating a snapshot of your project, including installation packages and release notes. We also provide a JSON evidence file for tracking and audits. And releases can be created even via the pipeline, so automatically, or using an API. So it's a very extensible system. You can create also upcoming releases for your customers to reference. And we're going to look at that in depth in a second. Releasing things in this way may be useful for a number of reasons. Maybe you're providing code to your customers. Maybe you're providing tools or scripts internally. And this is a nice way to create that point where people can pick up software and understand or have at least an agreed release model. We're going to dive into release operations briefly. So we're going to jump onto our instructions. And I think as opposed to last time, I'm going to slowly walk through the workshop and hopefully everyone can walk along with me. So I'm going to jump straight over to my environment. I'm going to go ahead and find myself back to the workshop materials, and I'm going to go ahead and open the release operations task. First step, we're going to go ahead and navigate through to our deploy and container registry. What's happened here is we've actually built containers. You can see here I made several runs already. And what we need to do is we need to make sure we take a copy of the URL. I'm going to grab the container that was built from the main branch. I'm going to copy that image path. I'm going to copy that into a text file somewhere for a later use. We need that a bit later on. Don't worry, we can always come back and grab it. As we run more pipelines, you'll see that these releases will build up. And you can get the full details. Here you can see I've got multiple tags. It's possible for me to link to a specific one as well. We're going to go ahead now and create our release based on these artifacts that have been generated. We can come to the side menu, go to deploy, and go to the releases section. Once on the release page, we're going to go ahead and create a new release. We click the button. First of all, we're going to give it a tag name. I'm going to go ahead, click on here, and type 1.0.0. Now, this tag doesn't exist. So we're going to go ahead and create a tag. Click on the Create Tag button. And you can also make a note against this tag. Of course, this is a Git repository tag. This note will be my first GA release. Feel free to put in any description you like. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Fantastic. Next, I'm going to set up a release title of initial 1.0.0 release. Okay. Then I'm going to click down the milestone dropdown and link this release to this milestone. Okay. Next, I'm going to set the release date to today. We can add a quick release note. Okay, just added some text there. Do let me know if I'm going too fast or reach out on the chat if you're stuck. Now, next up, we're going to add a release note. Then we're going to check the include message from annotated tag. This is really important. That allows us to have this information as a part of the notes. And then we're going to scroll down to the URL. This is where we can start linking the artifacts. Now, I copied a link earlier on. I'm going to go ahead now and paste that here. Oop. 1 second. Yep. I'm going to paste that in here. What I will need to do is just make sure I've got HTTPS in front of it. This is the link we copied from before. If you weren't sure about that, you can come to your container registry, and if you right-click, open in a new window, you can easily pop open a new tab and grab the URL again from here. Copy, and then paste that in here. I'm going to give the link a title. Set that to release image. I'm going to indicate that this is actually an image artifact. I'm going to leave the rest of the settings and then create release. And there we go. GitLab has compiled not only the repository available in bundled file format, also we have our build artifact. We have a JSON file with our evidence of build and tests and outputs. We also have a link to the milestone. So we know how many of the issues or topics that were allocated to this build have been completed. I'm going to pause there. If anyone's got an issue, please reach out. I keep saying give me a thumbs up if you're okay to move on. And as it's getting on, I'm going to move forward onto step 3, which is pretty much one of the last steps that we'll be covering today. So well done. Another feature for GitLab is that we can actually set future releases as well. We can plan another release. To do that, I'm going to go ahead into my side menu. I'm going to go to deploy. I'm going to go back to releases again. I'm going to create a new release. And for the note, I think that step's missing here. So we're just going to create a new release. And then in the tag name, we want to create our own tag. And we're going to call it 1.0.1. Okay, let's create that tag. We can add a quick message about that. Oh, not here. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and click save. We can set the release title. And we can set the release date as the end date of our last release. I could put that in the future. We're going to go ahead and check include message from annotated. We can add a quick release note as well. Now, the interesting part here is we can go ahead, because we don't have any artifacts yet, but we can go ahead and link this or pair this with a couple of scheduled events that we have coming. So we're going to add some release assets. In the URL field, we're going to add our events URL. And by the way, if you've not seen this URL yet, do make a note of it. This is where we announce all our future webinars and interactions. So you're more than welcome to keep an eye on that one. It's a good one. And once we've done that, we can say here, release events. And we can leave type as other. And at that point, we can create our future release. Fantastic. Lots more information about how to use releases. Automating them is really useful. Once you get to a more mature CI/CD with testing and deployment, verification, automating releases really speeds up time to market, time to production. The last step here talks about clearing up our issues boards. So we can come over to our issue boards, plan issue boards. And if I come back to my team scope board, I can actually move any open issues to closed. And I can simply drag and drop. Close that one, since we've gone through all the steps. Boom, there we go. And I will now drop that into close. Okay. Good work, folks. How are we doing on the workshop? If anyone's stuck, please let me know. If you have any questions. I'm going to transition back to the slides. Fantastic. We're almost at the end. The last bit of information here, we do allow you to, it is possible to transfer your hard work today. You can transfer the project you've been working on into your own area, into your own GitLab account. And these instructions can be found under the transfer, under courses, transfer project folder. I can quickly show you what that looks like. We have a transfer project folder. So just again, under the Telco workshop, if I go under courses, transfer project, transfer MD, here is a complete list of instructions to transfer your project into your own account space. Okay. But please note, only transfer once you've finished using our demo labs environment. You do have 2 weeks to use this fully licensed, ultimate licensed and AI enabled space to experiment with the features. So if you transfer your project to a space that doesn't have these features, obviously you will not be able to run through all of the exercises that you've seen today, whereas some of them depend upon these licensed features. Fantastic. Right. Reached the final stage, and we'll just wrap up here and just cover off some conclusions on what you've been doing today. We've aimed to show you how to plan and relate your work back to issues and merge requests. This enables you to have traceability on changes and work requests as they pass through your teams into production. We've also shown you how to secure applications and build more efficient pipelines with advanced or simple and advanced CI/CD. And we've also shown you how to do releases to enable the ability to bundle your software or your scripts or even your infrastructure as code into downloadable files. But of course, GitLab DevSecOps platform has so much more. And this is only really the tip of the iceberg. In the Telco vertical team, we certainly plan to be running more workshops in the future as we become more involved in the telco industry. I hope everyone's enjoyed the session, and we're good to move to a live Q&A. So feel free to write your questions into the Q&A section, and I'll give a few minutes. If people have some questions, do reach out and we can answer them live. If no questions, you can always follow up by getting hold of us via an account manager or online. And I'm sure we'll be running this session again with enhancements in the future. This was our first run of this material today, so thank you for running through it with us. Ted, I don't know if you've got any closing comments.
Nope, nothing from my side. Just thanks everybody for attending.
Absolutely, yeah. And thank you, Ted, for running the first half of the session. It was great.
Right back at you.
Awesome. I'll just give it a few more moments. If people want to drop off, please feel free to go. You will receive, I think, a follow-up email on this with a recording, so you can review this materials. And just to reiterate, you will have access to this environment for another 2 weeks. So feel free to come back and rerun the materials you've seen today and look at our features. So feel free to drop if you need to. I'll be hanging out here for a few more minutes if anyone's got any second thoughts. But oh, there's a correction there. Apparently it's 2 days. Is that right, Logan? Okay. If you do need access, you can set up a trial. You can reach out to your account team and we can arrange for you to have a more in-depth demo or review the system together. I think a question's popped up there from Ivan. When will GitLab support for external container registry end? I am aware that work is happening in this place. We do currently support a very limited proxy capability that allows local caching. So I'll see if I can find the documentation on that for you. But more comprehensive external container registry ends are happening. I'm assuming that's what you meant. If not, please elaborate a bit more on the question, Ava. No worries. Thanks, Abdelrahman. I'll answer live. Can we rely on some uptime for GitLab container registry if you're using GitLab.com registry for production? Absolutely. We have thousands of customers on our SaaS offering. Our SRE teams working diligently around the clock to ensure we maintain our nines of reliability. And it's also good to know that you can have a look at our documentation on our architecture. We build out a very robust architecture to mean not only is it scalable and performant, but it also has inherent high availability and failover capabilities. So yeah. Hopefully that's answered your question. Good question. And I believe we also issue our performance reports from our operations teams. They may also be visible that show you our uptime and everything for historic use. We also have a numerous reference customers who use our SaaS offering. And if that's not good enough in terms of your requirements, then we also have a dedicated offering where we can run a private SaaS instance for your company. And with that offering, you can actually set the rules and have some input to the infrastructure. So a bit more flexibility. A question there from Anonymous. Usually are able to tag a merge from main. Would it also end up as a release we just did, or do we need to go through the process only? The process really, again, the release process includes the ability to create a new Git tag. But if there's one existing, you can just reference it in your release. All that's happening there is the release utility is just linking together a repository tag with artifacts and documentation. I think Logan's going to respond there, maybe. And a follow-up there from Abdelrahman. Yes, there are rate limitings on our SaaS platform, obviously, to stop that from impacting performance. But it says you don't pull images out of the ordinary. Okay. Yeah. It's really important to scale for that and understand impact. If you've got a very public registry that you're offering and people are pulling a lot from. So yeah, careful to manage that. I don't know if Logan's going to add any more context to that, but okay. Awesome. Okay, folks, any more questions before we close the session? So I'm just going to wrap up saying a big thank you to the demo team for putting together content and infrastructure. A big thank you to Sajeevan for being on the Q&A in the background. And always Ted for being super awesome. Thank you, Ted. And a little shout out to Helen and Seraphine have also been helping in the background. So yeah, well done, everybody. And that concludes the session. We'll end it there. Have a great day, folks, and do visit us again soon for more.